Class, in this lesson we're going to cover something very simple. It's called interval notation. So, backing up a little bit, we're going to talk about inequality notation first. We are very familiar with this. All numbers greater than 3, all numbers less than or equal to 6, etc. All numbers between 2 and 7. Now for the last one, I'm going to stop a little bit. All numbers less than 3, all numbers greater or equal to 6. Now, if you write this down, actually it seems correct. It's tempting to do it this way, but it would not be right. Okay, let's think about this. Now, a number that's less than 3, say 0. 0 is less than 3, but 0 is not bigger than 6. So 0 doesn't satisfy this expression. If I try 7, 7 is bigger than 6, but 7 is not less than 3, so that doesn't satisfy it either. So that's basically why we cannot combine it into one single inequality like we did up here. So in this case, we split it up into two pieces, and we used the union symbol, this OR symbol, as a way of expressing all the x values that are less than 3 in addition to unioned with all the values of x that are greater than 6, greater or equal. Okay, now let's go to interval notation. We'll start with this right here. All numbers between 2 and 7 can be written as like this. Now this is interesting because you look at this and it just looks just like a coordinate point. X is 2, y is 7. But in the context of interval notation, or in the context of where we're describing a range of numbers, now we have to switch and interpret this as being all the numbers that are between 2 and 7. Not including the 2, not including the 7, that's what the parentheses mean. So now we have to say, well, what do I do with this equal here? Okay, so in this case, we change it up a little bit. When we have the equal sign, we say, well, I do want to include the 2 here. So now we say, well, I do want to include the 2 using this bracket here. So not including the -1, but including the 2. Okay, now what do we do about these cases here? So all numbers greater than 3, so we could start off with 3. Well, 3 up to what? 3 up to positive infinity. And since we have a greater than sign, we don't want to include the 3. We put a parentheses on this side. What do we do on the other side? We put another parentheses. Always put a parentheses where you see an infinity. So now we have ways of doing these other ones. Numbers between -infinity up to and including the 6. Numbers from 10 all the way up to infinity. Let me change the color of this. Okay. And in this case here, we still need to separate this into two pieces. So we have an expression for numbers less than 3, and then we use the union sign again, and then numbers greater than 6, like that. Okay, quick note. Convention is we always put the smaller number on the left-hand side. 2 is smaller than 7. 3 is less than positive infinity. -1 is less than 3. -1 is less than positive infinity. Negative infinity is less than 8. So smaller number, comma, bigger number. And again, always use infinity. Or parentheses for infinity, not a bracket. That is the lesson. Okay, now let's just review, or I'll give you some problems to do, and I'll show you the answers in just a second. So do these problems. I'll show the answer in 3, 2, 1. Okay, let's go to the next page. When we think about the domain of something, I'll give you time to do this, but when you think of the domain, think about what is the x value here? What is the x value here? What is the x value here? Cast a shadow of the graph upon the x-axis. That is my domain. Cast a shadow of the graph upon the y-axis as if we had light shining in either direction, casting the shadow on the y-axis. This now describes my range, numbers greater or equal to 0, and that's what we show here. Now I could write the following, all real numbers, as a replacement for this, but since we're using interval notation and we want to get used to it, we write it like that. Okay, so then we have this here. Now in this case, I'll just talk about it one more time. Cast a shadow of the graph upon the x-axis. The value right there is 2. The value right there is -1. And so then we have the following. All numbers less than -1, union all numbers greater or equal to 2. And the range is the same way. We cast the shadow upon the y-axis, and then we come up with this. Okay, that's the lesson for today. Have a good day, everybody.